you're still tired, even after resting, there's a reason. You can't just work harder at recharging. You have to listen and learn what your nervous system actually needs. Hi, I'm Jenny Hughes, founder of the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective. And last week on this channel, we talked about what happens at the start of summer for trauma therapists, how a slowing calendar doesn't always bring relief. Sometimes it brings a lot of activation, tension, the kind that lives in your neck, your chest, your jaw. Now that things are actually starting to slow down, you might be noticing what we talked about in that video and asking yourself, but why do I still feel so off? That's exactly where we're going today. But we're going to go even one layer deeper because once the slowdown hits, you might find that rest, even when you make space for it, doesn't work the way that you hoped it would. I want you to think of some of the times recently when you've canceled some clients, or maybe they canceled on you because of their summer plans. That could have let you sleep in a few days, or then you got an extra Friday off and really focused on unplugging. But then once you got back to work, you still felt foggy, still stuck in that restless loop of shit, I took time off to recharge, but I'm still just so tired. Let's name it. You didn't do rest wrong, okay? You just haven't had the kind of support that your nervous system actually knows how to use yet. That's because rest is a pause. Actual recovery is your body finding its way back from depletion. And sustained regulation is your ability to remain connected to yourself even while you're working. Now, that doesn't mean that we are always at this perfect baseline level, but when there are those ups and downs, they're not quite as intense either way. And then that regulation allows us to come back to our baseline. And so many of us, myself included, try to force recovery by scheduling time off, but then our systems are still running, looping, gripping because we haven't been able to really develop systems of regulation. And I want you to know that is not a failure. It happens to me, it happens to all of us. It's because of that protective wiring in your brain and body, making sure that you're always on to keep you safe, to keep you doing your job as a trauma therapist. The reality, though, we don't need to be in survival mode all the time, nor does it serve us. And that's why in Brave, we talk a lot about needs meeting, not just self-care. In fact, if you know me, you know that I hate the term self-care, especially because it's been weaponized against us as trauma therapists. And it's so overused that it's lost its true meaning, right? It turns into care without really knowing your brain and body's real needs. Then that just becomes another performance. It's not actually doing anything for you. So let's start understanding your needs right now. We're going to start by slowing down together. So, if you're able to, let your shoulders drop a little, maybe on your very next exhale. Then ask yourself, without needing to answer right away, what do I need in this moment that rest hasn't touched yet? Maybe it's comfort, maybe it's permission. Maybe it's not being alone in the hard stuff. I don't want you to feel forced in solving it right now. You might not even have words for it yet, and that's okay. In brain spotting, we say you don't have to know what it is to know that it is, and to know that you have a need underneath that layer of rest. All of this is okay. We don't have to judge or evaluate it. What I want you to know is you're not alone in this question of, what do I need? Inside of Brave, I've heard versions of this over and over again and again. We don't get permission to ask ourselves this question, so it's hard to answer it. One member recently shared something with us that literally stopped me in my tracks. She said, I took 3 days off. I didn't work, I didn't scroll, I didn't do anything productive. But by Monday morning, I felt worse. All she was doing was trying to rest, to do what she thought she was supposed to be doing to care for herself, really trying. But underneath it, she was waiting to feel better. And when she didn't, she blamed herself. Her exact words were, wait for this, I felt like I'd wasted the time How often have you felt like that, right? You did all these things to take care of yourself and you still feel like shit. Here's what then shifted things for her, okay? As a community in Brave, we rallied. We talked about what she needed during those 3 days, not just what she avoided. She then heard from her colleagues, from our members, that she wasn't alone and that the shame that she was feeling about not being recharged just was not serving her. This helped her realize that she didn't need only silence during those 3 days. She also needed connection. She didn't just need time off away from clinical work, she needed time in her body with awareness. She needed to stop treating her nervous system like a project. What actually helped her wasn't a break. It was then giving herself permission to stop trying to feel better. She let herself be still without then fixing it. And that's when things really started to change. Not everything, but enough to begin. No more agenda, no more productivity, just being present for this person. That, not the days off, is what started the reset for her. Just like this Brave member, you also don't need another productivity system. We have so many of those already. You need a rhythm that your body can actually trust, okay? Here are a few recharging rhythms that have really supported me and other trauma therapists that I work with, and you might want to just give them a try. The first is ritual over routine. We were just talking about this in a recent Brave call, and it could be anything from lighting a candle or incense before your admin hour or before a session, or washing your hands and saying, "That's done for today." Your nervous system doesn't really need variety, especially when we're trying to bring things back to regulation. It needs predictability. So knowing that you have these rituals is going to be really helpful. The second thing is energy planning instead of time planning. Okay. So instead of looking at your calendar and asking, when can I fit in a break? Ask yourself, when do I feel most capable of showing up for myself? And then build around that, not through it. Work with where you're at and go from there. The third thing is what you do at the end of your sessions, a session exit practice. I don't want you to go straight from a client's trauma to your inbox, right? That is super jarring for your nervous system. Give yourself a ritual that transitions you back into your own life. This could be a quick walk, even just to the bathroom, listening to your favorite playlist or song real quick, lying on the floor with your hands on your chest, or check out my soft transitions exercise that's linked below. It's a really quick transition that only takes 3 or 5 minutes and is super, super helpful. The last thing is no catch up blocks. I want you to hold 1 hour a week where you do not fix, update, plan, or clean up anything. Even if you sit there just staring at the wall, your system will eventually register that nothing is required of you. And when these rituals become part of your routine, here's what often comes next. Not right away, but over time, you start to feel again in your work. The client who smiles at something they couldn't even say out loud 6 months ago. The way your chest expands when you realize that they're regulated enough to cry. The joy that slips in when you actually feel proud of the work. The vicarious resilience that's available to you every single day in your work. Not the intellectual knowing that your work matters, but the embodied experience of it. It doesn't land when your body is bracing. It only settles in when there is a rhythm, some safety, some space. So if you've been feeling numb to the good, it might not be that it's not there. It might be that your system just has not had the space to let it register. And that's not your fault. Please hear me when I say that. It's actually your cue. So I want you to leave with this. If you're still tired, even after rest, what part of you is still holding that tension? What's one rhythm you could start this week? Not for efficiency, not for performance, but for presence. You're not failing at recovery. You're learning how to stay with yourself in a deeper way. And that's what sustainability actually feels like. So let me know in the comments or share with someone who needs this. What is one rhythm that you're going to experiment with this summer. If you need somewhere to start, be sure to grab my free soft transition exercise in the description. It's going to be a big help to get you started. You do not have to work harder at rest. You just have to listen more gently to what rest hasn't reached yet.